I'm going to record that to the cloud. And what happens, just so everyone's aware, when we record to the cloud, in the audio transcript, the chat gets captured. Just so you know, just full transparency, we want you to know. Stuff you say in the chat, even privately to others, may show up in the audio transcript. It's one of the quirks of Zoom that we love. So welcome everyone. Thank you so much for this great level of participation from Cambrian College staff. I'm really excited about this particular session, and we'll hear from a couple of voices at least as we get started. But I want to begin just acknowledging, first of all, I will do a land acknowledgement, but just acknowledging the time that we are in as a planet, as a region, as a nation, and what we're seeing in the US. This conversation around truth and reconciliation and the ways that we can support and learn ourselves to help Indigenous peoples in Canada and to respect them is very important right now. So I'm going to start with our land acknowledgement, and we're also going to hear from Ron Sarrazin so that, again, we can get those multiple perspectives. So Cambrian College would like to acknowledge that we are situated on the traditional lands of the Robertson-Huron Treaty of 1850, and I've enjoyed learning about that recently, some of the details. We acknowledge our hosts, Atikameksheng and Anishinaabe, as well as our ancestors of this land, the Anishinaabe people. We are guests on this land, and it is our shared obligation to respect, honor, and sustain it. So not just reading it out to hear it said, but to think more deeply about it today as we talk about the 4 Seasons of Reconciliation learning that we can participate in. I'm going to add the link because there's a bit of confusion. So I'm going to put the link to our Moodle shell that was created by Marnie Seal and Jessica O'Reilly, who were the two strong leaders and champions in our organization, bringing this learning possibility forward to us. So I thank them for their work in getting this rolling for us as staff members, as an opportunity to learn more about truth and reconciliation. And that Moodle link is where all Cambrian staff members, faculty members, support staff, administrators can take part in this learning. And I just wanted on Andre Casbon's behalf say that learning is just for staff at this time. We're looking into how that might be learning for our students as well at Cambrian College, but that's an issue for another day. For now, we have only procured the rights to do it for our staff, but it's a really exciting opportunity. So next I'd like to ask Ron Sarrazin to share with us some of his thoughts, because he's gone through this learning, and some of his perspectives about what is important in it for us as a college to learn. So Ron, I'm going to ask you just to say a few things, if you will.
First of all, welcome everybody, and it's encouraging to see that so many people are attending this. I found it a valuable tool. Thank Marnie and Jessica and Jenny for bringing it to us. It's something I firmly believe in. In 2019, I was the chair of the Indigenous Education Circle, and as in that role, I signed the protocol with President Bill Best at the time. There's 5 measures of the 4 Seasons of Reconciliation, of the Truth and Reconciliation, and there's also the 5 measures that go along with our protocol. They're integrating Indigenous education into Cambrian's academic programming. Number 2 is providing ongoing education to faculty and staff on Indigenous culture, traditions, and history. Acknowledging the calls to truth to action outlined by the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada, providing cultural, academic, and counseling support to Indigenous learners, and finally, strengthening relationships and accountability with our Indigenous communities. So with that being said, I thought when this was proposed to me, I thought it was anything as good that would is a learning tool for our staff and other people within the college that will find this as a valuable tool as we go towards the indigenization of Cambrian College. And indigenization is not just working with Indigenous students or anything. It's how you bring the culture and the belief and so people can understand within the context of a campus of what we're trying to do. My whole thought since I've been dealing with Bill and the board and with Cambrian is Cambrian should be a leader in Indigenous education. And part of it is I want to make this a destinational college for Indigenous communities to recognize and see the benefits of attending Cambrian College. In January 2020 of this year, I'm a newbie, by the way, to Cambrian College. I joined Cambrian as the Director of Indigenous Services, Success and Services, sorry, at Wabnode. My commitment is to work in collaboration and partnership with Cambrian faculty and staff towards the end of indigenization of Cambrian College. I reviewed this this tool, the 4 Seasons of Reconciliation. I have found it a learning tool for me. Both of my parents went through the residential school system and didn't talk much about it. And the only, I heard a little bit about it before my dad passed away, because he was involved in a lawsuit for the sexual abuse and the physical abuse that they suffered. But my parents never talked much about it unless we really pried for them. So if you do this module, you'll see how you were felt to be ashamed to be Native and that. And so part of this whole module that I'm thank Andrea for putting this together. It just paints a picture of what really happened and the history of it, but also moving forward. How can we move forward? It's a great learning tool. I learned a lot from it. Like I said, my parents both went through it, but they didn't talk about it. So it's how do we reconcile, but also move forward with Cambrian College as a leading institute for Indigenous studies. So I found it really helpful.
Great. Thank you so much, Ron, for sharing with us your thoughts and perspectives. And I invite anyone to ask questions. Most people are muted just to keep our background noises quiet as we talk, because there's lots of us here, which is really exciting. If you have a question, please use the chat feature in Zoom, or you can ask your question out loud when we have time and pauses for that. But I would like to introduce our special guest for today, Andrea Casbon, and she is the creator of this resource in terms of her production of it and her company's production of it. And she will share with us lots more about her journey and her experience with Indigenous peoples. She's an acclaimed filmmaker here in Canada and has done some really amazing work. So I'm going to introduce Andrea and let her tell us more about herself. So Andrea, if you're ready.
Yes, hi everybody. Hi Annie Boujou. It's wonderful to be with all of you, and thank you, Ron, for that wonderful context of bringing us to the place of the vision of all of this for Cambrian College. And I appreciate that there's a lot of Zoom video fatigue going around, and I appreciate that you can join us by video. The reason for the Zoom video is also to allow a recording of it so that your counterparts can also learn about this. So I appreciate all of you, and if you need to turn off your video and listen via audio, you know, I'm perfectly fine with that. I appreciate that you have a lot of video calls. So, you know, take care of yourself. And as we heard earlier, these are unprecedented times. And at the same time, there's a lot to celebrate in June. It is Indigenous History Month. June 21st will be Indigenous Peoples Day. And so hopefully together we can create something really positive that moves us from, you know, from good mind, good hearts, and good spirits in moving towards reconciliation together. Je veux aussi dire bonjour. Je vois qu'on a des francophones de la région de Sudbury. Alors, merci beaucoup d'être avec nous. Peut-être qu'on va leur jouer une petite blague, faire semblant qu'on continue juste en français, voir qu'est-ce qu'ils pensent. So just a warm hello to some of the Franco-Ontarians that I see. Let me begin by saying that It's a real honor to work with Cambrian College. My family is all from Nipissing Lake region, Sturgeon Falls, Verner, Sudbury, North Bay. You know, my best childhood memories in the summers are from that region, and I have a lot of family members. So I was really excited to see Cambrian College joining us on this journey. And there's a couple of people that I want to highlight as well from your nations and from your territories. But first, let me say that this resource, our role is very technical. You know, we're here as a production company that you know, is able to navigate multimedia and film and documentary. But the vision of this unit, 4 Seasons of Reconciliation, you know, comes from Indigenous peoples. It's been in the works since 2013. It started by request from the Aboriginal Healing Foundation. You know, we heard earlier from a family member of the residential school system. Well, the Aboriginal Healing Foundation was headed by Mike de Gagne, who's also in your region as president at Nipissing University. And we had created a film with the community of Kitchinumig-Sibininuig, Third World Canada. Their nation's also known as Big Trout Lake, a remote flying community above Thunder Bay. And in our work with that film, the Aboriginal Healing Foundation was a critical mentor and a teacher in my own journey as a French-Canadian white settler coming to Truth and Reconciliation in 2007. The Aboriginal Healing Foundation in their last year wanted to support initiatives that would continue the education of residential schools and the ongoing intergenerational traumas and impacts. And so they wrapped a team around us, and we created the first multimedia textbook resource with Third World Canada. As their funding was stripped and their organization closed, we then created a partnership with this resource. So we were still in pilot phase at that time. And so the First Nations University of Canada is now the partner of this resource. Those of you who will be doing this course will receive a certificate of completion from First Nations University of Canada. It's actually compatible on LinkedIn, and you can share it directly on your education page as well there. And so First Nations University of Canada actually has a 40-hour reconciliation certificate. And this course, from the morphings of its original version, and the team at the Aboriginal Healing Foundation, it is also a mini baby step, if you will, in reconciliation that kind of covers the 101 that all of us missed in our education journey in Canada. And so First Nations University is now the partner not only of the online courses for the classroom and for the workplace, but they also at their 40th anniversary, you know, First Nations University is one of the oldest Indigenous-led Indigenous education setting we have in Canada. And so when they celebrated their 40th anniversary, this reconciliation film series kind of sprung from a pipe ceremony and from a celebration that took place on campus. We were already developing some initiatives and some reconciliation projects together. And so the film series is a companion piece to the course. And again, that is anchored at First Nations University. So some of these films are actually part of the course, and I'll walk you through the course in a little bit. And others are part of the bonus learning section where you can continue your learning. I encourage you, especially in these really difficult times in terms of some of the negative energy and some of the, you know, our need for direction and our need for, you know, looking at our situation from an Indigenous worldview. So you'll find in there 2 films that are envisioned and directed by the First Nations University of Canada. They have an Indigenous circle called the Kete Ayak, which comprises of 6 different nations across Saskatchewan. And so those elders not only participated in the film, but were the creators of these 2 films. And so Winiska, an awakening of Indigenous knowledge, as well as a Sonomatuan, a sharing of Indigenous knowledge, is also part of that bonus library. So I just wanted to acknowledge our partner. You'll see their beautiful campus all across, and I'll show it to you in just a moment. And as well, I had mentioned some of the amazing people that I'm sure you know that you have on your territories and surrounding regions of Sudbury. And I give a shout out to Mike de Gagné, who is just been a critical person in my own reconciliation journey. As well, I want to give an acknowledgement and sharing my gratitude to Chief Duke Peltier, who is featured in the film Economic Reconciliation, as well as Don Mandabi Leach. Those 2 leaders bring an insight that is absolutely incredible in the film. You can also learn more from them in the bonus learning section again. Some of the images of the film, found on their 2 Nation is absolutely beautiful. So I hope you recognize yourself when you see the film. As well, I want to give a shout out. Some of you may know Marnie Yorchuk, who's at the North Shore Tribal Council at Serpent River First Nations. She was really critical in those initial pilots that we began, and actually the journey began with a grade 10 history unit, moved into a post-secondary classroom unit, and thirdly is the professional development course that you have. And so Marnie brought us on a tour of 11 communities in your surrounding region, and was an incredible advisor to this whole process. So another amazing leader in terms of Indigenous education in your own backyard. We'll meet some folks from all across Canada in the resource, but I just wanted to acknowledge. And as well, another incredible leader is youth leader Quinn Masawagi from Serpent River First Nation, and he's also featured in some of the bonus section. He lends his perspective as an Indigenous student in the resource. So these are all incredible champions and giants you have in your own region, and I just wanted to give a shout out to them and extend my gratitude for all of their teachings along my reconciliation journey. So where to begin? Maybe what we can do is I'll take some of your questions now so that I can, as I give you a little mini tour, I want to make sure that I'm respectful. I see that, all of you have committed this time to this, and I want to make sure that we don't run out of time and that I'm able to answer some of your questions, or maybe you have some themes that you would like to hear about, or specific sections that you'd like me to showcase during my presentation. So I'm wondering if we can get some assistance in terms of the technology of taking in your questions and your interest. So.
Sure, Andre, I'm right here for you, so I can keep an eye on chat and see if we get some questions in chat, or people are welcome to put a hand up. And although I have, a little bit trouble seeing everyone at once, chats may be the best approach if you'd like to ask a question. Does that sound good?
Yeah, that'd be great. And, I can always call out your name so that we can say hi and see each other. But if you can type in your questions via the chat, and when you see, one or two kind of pop up during the presentation, feel free to give me a little wave,
Mhm.
and let me know that that I can pause and answer some of that. I just want to make sure, you know how these things go. You get to the end and you run out of time, and then you've just heard one long monologue instead of each other's voices, because this is really about learning together. So I just, I just want to make sure. And Ron, thank you so much for your, heartfelt and beautiful review of the resource. I'm glad that it honors your expectation, and also, you were sharing earlier, the territory that you're on, and as well, your own experiences with your grandparents. So I hope that that the resource can honor you and your family and relations as well. You'll see in the module, in module 5, in residential schools, there is a section and a really beautiful testimony from a Dene elder about her experiences in the residential school, and as well, it's a very truth-telling clip, but it's also a very uplifting clip as well. So shall I begin and give you a little bit of a tour as those questions and those comments come in? Does that work for everyone? Yep.
It sounds good. I don't see any questions so far, Andre, but I will keep a close eye.
This is the part where I share my screen. I'm just going to have that option. Yes, I do. Thank you. Here. So this is Quinn's testimony of being an Indigenous student in the classroom. He talks about racism, and he also talks about his own journey. And so when he saw this resource, I always laugh when I think of him, because he pulled a Tom Cruise. He literally got up on a sofa and started jumping up and down. He was that excited. So I hope he's still excited about 4 Seasons of Reconciliation, and I'm sure he'll be pleased to know that that it's in his own backyard once more. Okay, let me just find where I want to go so that we're going to do a little test here. So this is a short clip, 38 seconds. I always I know you were sharing going back out on the land this weekend, and I hope lots of you have a chance to do this. But I just wanted to bring you, I'm here on Treaty 4 in Regina, and I just wanted to honor the lands that are here. So I want to also check to see if when I play this video, does it play back well, or does it lag, and should we skip showing videos? So this is a 38-second sneak peek at one of the films that I mentioned from the elders. So we'll try it and see how that goes. So can everybody see my screen with buffaloes and so on? Yeah.
Yep, so far so good.
I gotta start with the buffaloes, right? Here we go.
How the people use the land and the plants and the animals. That's how I sustain myself, not only for survival, but almost as a yearning to be. We need the land, and so our history tells us, our narratives tell us about how we are partnered with the land.
So how was that that playback for folks in front of their screens? Ron, I see you as one of my first pop-up. Did that play okay for you?
Yeah, I've got it for sure. And it was, I think some other people, I'm just looking at the chats, and some people are having trouble. But it looks like a mixture of who got it good and who got it. Mine was good.
Okay. Well, hopefully you heard the audio. I just wanted to kind of set the tone a little bit and bring you to the lands. Should we try one last one? I also wanted to share with you, there's a whole beautiful series that was done with the community of Kitchener-Sib-and-Innuwig. So this is about, 12 years after Third World Canada. And this is a film led by their educators, and it's a whole video series that's also available in the bonus section, because we're going to talk about the course, but I want you to see as well that there's lots of additional ongoing learning that the course provides you beyond the course that you're about to take. And so I just want to point out, and I also think it's always good to hear from young people as well, and to hear their perspectives about their community and their nation. And so Kitchener-Sib-and-Innuwig, is really what started me, and as well my daughter, who went to visit there the first time when she was 7 years old. And now she's 5'9", much taller than me, and she's actually a business student at First Nations University. So a real full circle. So see, these are some of the young people that we've learned from on our own reconciliation journey. And so that whole series is also part of the bonus feature. And so I just want to share this. It's 1 minute and 56 seconds. So, and then after that, we'll stop sharing video and we'll move into the course. But let's see how this goes. Hopefully the audio.
Kitchener-Sib-and-Innuwig means people of the lake. We were taught by our elders to protect our land and our water from pollution and just to keep it safe. My favorite thing to do here is the activities they have during homecoming or KI days, or even just going walks at night, especially springtime around 12 o'clock. It's very beautiful walking through the boardwalk, watching the sunset, because it sets so late. Candy?
No.
She's talking about candy now. Just the view we have here, it's real, and it's not all Photoshop like you would probably see online or anything. My family's more of like Christian. I've tried to get into more of my culture because I don't know, I've never had any of that, and it's something I'm learning like along the way. It was our moose meat, partridge, stew, and pemmican. Like we're allowed to hunt, we're allowed to camp, we can build in places in the bush where we can have cabin. And you look outside at night, you can see the northern lights just dancing in the sky. There's usually blue, green, depending on where you are and how it is.
Okay. Well, hopefully you saw some of these images and heard a little bit of the audio. But that's just to bring you outside a little bit. So let's get started. So we went through how you can access this resource within Cambrian College, and I encourage you to connect with the library team. They helped bring this forward to Cambrian. So they're a good place to go to if you lose your passport or if you have any technical questions. Our team is also available at 4 Seasons at reconciliationeducation.ca. And so you can also reach us that way or through our website on reconciliationeducation.ca. This is a bit of a longer video, so I'm not going to show it, but I wanted to show you some images of the university. So this is the First Nations University. It's, I don't know if you can, I'm just trying to, all right, hopefully that's a bit of a better view. The architect, Douglas Cardinal, is also featured in one of the films called Douglas Cardinal, Architect of the Future. And it's about his friendship with Alex Janvier, the world acclaimed artist, and how these two men, you know, over the years as residential school survivors, you know, made a promise to each other to make the invisible visible, and to change the landscape of Canada through their art and combat racism and colonialism that way. So it's a really beautiful film, not just of his architecture, but a story of reconciliation. It's set on the heels of the 150th Canada's anniversary, and it brings you through history and into the future, and really honors how Indigenous knowledge is not a thing of the past, but really something of the future. So this is one of his buildings here. And I just wanted to show it to you at night. These are the teepees that are in front of the university when the university is going forward in the fall and winter sessions. So these are teepees that are available to students, and they're also beautifully lit at night. So I just wanted to share with you some images of the university. As a follow-up to this session, we can also send you a link to the trailer of the 4 films that are found. But we're going to talk about economic reconciliation. I shared with you the Douglas Cardinal film and the two films by the elders. And here's can everybody see the screen okay, or do you need me to enlarge a little bit? Let me see if I can. No, I can't.
No,
see.
it's pretty good. Yeah, I think we can see it. Yeah.
I just wanted to also show you the Keteayak Elder Circle that I mentioned before. Okay. So we'll come out of here and here we go. Okay, can you see me okay? Did I stop sharing my screen?
Yes, you're back.
Okay, great. And so what I'm hoping that we can do, well, first of all, do we have some questions to jump to, or
There were a couple of questions. So one was from Ron, just asking about how the certificate happens. And I'm not 100% sure, Andre, if our system is completely set up correctly for that to happen. What should happen is once someone finishes, within 24 hours, they should get an email, give or take. And I'm not 100% sure that's happening, but is that how it should happen?
Sure. No, it's a great question. So the course is 10 modules, and it's self-paced. So you can leave and come back to it. It will track your progress. It's well anchored within Cambrian's portal right now. The certificates are, they're just an extra step. So they will, I will assist and make sure that, that this goes on. So I wouldn't worry about the technical delivery of the certificate, but certainly I can speak a little bit to how that works. So as you go through the course, when you arrive at the end and you complete your final quiz and you pass, you're automatically brought to your certificate page. And that certificate page will show you your name and Cambrian College. If there's any typos, or if either of those two elements don't show up, you're able to change the spelling of your name, or to make sure that Cambrian College is highlighted there. And then you'll see the logo of First Nations University, as well as the signature from their president. And so I'll show you an example in just a moment, just so you can see what it looks like. And That is also a digital certificate, so we don't mail it to you. You can print it yourself. You can also see some buttons that bring you to LinkedIn, and you can ask for it to be automatically added to your education page. And so, you know, and it's nice because it pops up visually. So, Ron, does that answer your question about the certificate?
Yeah, I went through the whole modules. I just wasn't too sure because I was testing it out, kind of taking it for a test drive.
Yeah.
And at the end, it showed me it as I was going through it. But when I finished the modules, I did score not bad, and opened to go to that page, but it never came up. And also another employee went through it and said, "How do I get my certificate?" So he was in the same boat as me. I just don't know how to proceed. It didn't come up after we were done.
Okay, well, that'll be easy to fix. And, you know, from a technical standpoint, you know, we'll be able to, anybody who completed already the course within Cambrian's portal, all your emails are there.
Right.
I'll help you with that.
I just seen another chat from somebody who said they did it and didn't get it either. So
Yeah, so it's just a matter, just a technical little bug that we have to fix so that the folks that have already taken the course within Cambrian will receive their certificate.
sure, that's good. Thank you.
Great.
Good question.
Okay, terrific. I have another question, Andre, from Yari Sundholm. He's asking, more or less asking, in the videos, sometimes we see that the negotiation and consultation process for businesses is not going very well. And so he's wondering where we can find accurate additional resources that you would recommend for our business cultural courses, so that what we're sharing with learners is the appropriate process for consultation.
Great question. Am I back on video? No. Okay, here we go.
There you go.
Yeah, and so, you know, question for him would be, has he already taken the course? Has he seen the film Economic Reconciliation? Or is he about to embark on that journey and is asking questions for the Faculty of Business? Feel free to interrupt me.
Sure. Hi, Yari. Can you clarify what stage you're at with the resources?
Yeah, I haven't looked at the course. I just looked at the preview videos, but we're developing courses, and one of the key elements that we want to implement in the postgraduate certs is Aboriginal or First Nation cultural issues. And obviously we're going to point it more towards business and success in business. Last spring, I think we were at this Ring of Fire seminar that was at Holiday Inn. And it seems like we're not really, like I'm talking about we, not you, aren't really understanding the negotiation process, because we say there's delays, there's this, there's that, but maybe that's built into the whole process. Not the delays, but rather getting to know what really needs to be done for successful business. That's my take on it.
Great discussion point. So two things. I mean, first of all, if you want to have a follow-up call with me to really discuss your needs in terms of the Faculty of Business and some of the elements we have, we can certainly do that. It's something that's, you know, very close to my heart because of the film on economic reconciliation. Let me answer it in a way that might be helpful for everyone as well, because I know you all represent different faculties, different courses. The professional development workplace course was kind of a merging of our existing course in the past, and now that economic reconciliation was ready, with the help of Whitecap Dakota Nation, which is a nation here in Saskatchewan that is at the forefront of economic reconciliation and creating sustainable economic success for their nation. They have like 7 industry partners, and most of everyone in their nation is employed. So it was a really wonderful partnership with them to test the workplace course to see if it would be a fit for the private sector as well. And more importantly, if the course was also a fit for the needs of Indigenous learners, you know. And so with their assistance and their feedback, you know, we tweaked the resource. But in our work with them, what we were able to do was actually create a bonus learning page that is specific for law and business and private sector. So for example, the Faculty of Law at Queen's University finds that really helpful because it looks at areas around economic reconciliation. And so that might be, you know, that might be some bonus videos that would be helpful. Again, this course is for the professional development of staff and faculty. So this could be helpful, for example, for the team that is, you know, that is with you in terms of, you know, the educators and the instructors. As well, the film Economic Reconciliation, and I certainly want to highlight, and I wanted to wait till we went through the course a little bit more to chat a little bit about the role of Morris Switzer. And so maybe I'll jump in and do that now. But Morris Switzer is not only an advisor and a dear friend to the course and the resource, but he's also the writer of the film Economic Reconciliation. And so again, our role at Productions Casabon was more a technical role. You know, we showed up with the cameras and the gear and the edit suites. But that film was first and foremost envisioned by David Sharp, who is an Indigenous banker on Bay Street, who saw that economic reconciliation was something critical. The TRC, the cost of action, these were things that were not talked about in the private sector. And so he's also, he was at the time for 7 years, the chair of First Nations University. So that was one of the requests for that film. And so Morris Switzer, who is an incredible leader in your region. He resides in North Bay. I highly encourage you to work with Morris in your classrooms, in your settings. You know, he can speak to so many topics, but he's also a treaty knowledge keeper. And so, for example, all of the treaty belts that were featured in the film and the protocols that go with that, you know, these were things that Chief Duke Peltier and Morris Switzer helped ensure. And Morris Switzer is also the first Indigenous publisher in the country, and so his research is impeccable. And so he literally built that film, and we delivered word for word exactly what he wanted, which I said to Morris, don't ever make another documentary film again, because that never happens. I've never seen that in my life. So I think that film is the whole process of that film is very authentic. It's Indigenous led. It's won prizes at, you know, Helsinki Film Festival for education and so on. And it's also going to be launched at one of the major 5 banks in June for the training of all of their employees. So I think you'd find that there's a lot in there that would be of assistance. And plus you have the whole bonus features. So we have folks like Perrin Beatty from the Canadian Chamber of Commerce you know, the case study of the fishery in Wiki in your region. So I think you'd find that there's a lot of resources in there. You know, me personally, I was in Kitchener-Ksibininiwug when the leaders were jailed for protecting their lake against a mining company. And so I saw firsthand, you know, the evolution in that territory of the injustice and also the importance of consultation. And so this is all Ring of Fire. So this is all very familiar to me. So we can certainly have a chat. But as I brought you this information for the folks in other faculties, whether you're in sciences or engineers or, you know, all the various fields that your faculty represents at Cambrian, we've been able to tailor some of the learning as well to the various departments so that it resonates and is relevant. So I hope that was helpful.
Yeah, it's very interesting. The content you were talking about is definitely of interest to us.
Great. Well, I'll make sure that, let's stay connected, and let's make sure we don't just see the film, but, have access to the full bonus section.
Okay, thank you.
There were a couple of quick questions, Andre. One from Mika that you sort of may have answered. He was asking, were all the films produced by Casbon, or were there other collaborators? And I think you just mentioned certainly Maurice Switzer and his leadership on that particular film. Were there other collaborators?
Yeah, so our role is always to be of service to reconciliation, and so we only embark on projects that are led and envisioned by Indigenous peoples, where we play a role but are not necessarily the ones making decisions or leading the way in terms of either the content, the vision, the process. And so every piece of film or video that you will see, and it's not just the Reconciliation film series, but you'll see videos from all kinds of topics. It goes all the way to PI to remote British Columbia. So those are, each of them have different and unique partnerships. So for example, if there's a particular video that you go through and you go, well, I wonder, who were the creators behind that? We also have a list of all the contributors and authors related to the unit. But, feel free to send us a note and we can walk you through. But so, for example, the film series, either the writer, the director, or the idea or the request for that film came from Indigenous people. So it's a little different in every film. And as well, the same for the videos. So for example, if we're talking about treaties and we're talking about Maurice Switzer before, that video is envisioned and led and written by Maurice Switzer, and we're kind of like the record button for that. And so, same with the residential school video. So the elders, and there are 2 films. Most of them are all residential school survivors, but they really wanted to make 2 films that speak about Indigenous knowledge and that doesn't necessarily go into, the themes of reconciliation or their experiences in schools. And so instead, what they asked was for additional videos where we would just, go into those elements, right? And so Margaret Reynolds stepped forward and asked for, for her story to be part of that. And so we just showed up in her Dene Nation and showed up with her camera and like we, it's a really cool experience because you have no idea what your day is going to be like. You don't even know what you're filming. If you're filming, we just show up and say, okay, Margaret, we're ready. How can we be of service? And so that's how a lot of the videos are created. So I hope that answers your question.
Great, thanks for that. And one more question, and then maybe we've got about 10 minutes or so left. So one more question, and then maybe you can give us sort of the quick tour of the course from your perspective. The last question we had from Marissa was around whether or not you would recommend, so you had mentioned the 40-hour course for Truth and Reconciliation. I believe that's a First Nations University course. Would you recommend that doing the PD course first and then doing that other course?
Oh, that's a great question. So usually the learning journey is, you start with the course, you get your certificate, and then you can travel in the bonus library. There travel through based on your interests and so on, and then we hope that this course, it's really a baby step. It's a foundational 101. It is not everything, as you will see. You know, it's just a little bit of some of the critical themes that look at the treaty relationship, the relationship between Indigenous peoples, settlers, and Canada, and teaches you about the Truth and Reconciliation movement. So it's a real beginning step. But once you go through that, you should be able to know that you need to know. And so I encourage you to learn directly from Indigenous peoples in person, you know, and we mentioned that in the course. And then for additional education, I'm sure there's lots around you. But yes, absolutely, First Nations University has a ton of online courses, and that 40-hour certificate is pretty amazing. So certainly that's a resource that you could take a look at.
Great, thank you. And one more question. Have you thought about screening the films at Cinefest? Allison Deluisa is asking, have you thought about screening the films at Cinefest, or have you screened them at other places? It would be great to have them accessible to a wider audience.
Yeah, so one of the other partners that I want to highlight is the National Center for Indigenous Education. So if you have a pen and paper and you write down the website nccie.ca, it is a partner that I wanted to highlight during our presentation, because you will find there tons of Indigenous education and Indigenous responses to education in there. First Nations University is a partner of that, as well. Some other education sites, you know, across the country. And you can travel through there. You can see our films there for free. Usually we'll highlight one or two every month. And so for folks that don't have access to 4 Seasons of Reconciliation, they can watch them there. I also highly recommend that site as an ongoing resource. So, and you can do things like search nationally in there, or regionally, or by theme or topics. And so this is content that was generated by students interviewing Indigenous peoples. There is such a beautiful library of content there, and we're really proud to you know, to be part of this incredible initiative. So that is a great place to bring some of those Indigenous perspectives in your classroom, in your work, in your own learning, and also a great place to see the films there for free. NCCIE was also a partner in one of the films by the elders. And I'm a huge fan of Cinefest. It's one of my favorite film festivals. Some of my earlier films have shown there. I can't quite remember what the result was to the film festival. Maybe we sent it in and it didn't get accepted. I can't remember. We tend to not be in film world enough, because, you know, this is where our heart and soul and focus is. And but certainly it's something worth looking into, because it would be really great. And if you want to host film screenings for free for the public in Sudbury, I mean, you have some amazing speakers in your region. We've shown it in North Bay. We donate the film, and anytime you want to have a large film screening, there are no fees to it. No cost. We'll help in whatever way we can. And I think you could create an amazing panel. Look at all the giants that are in your own backyard, and some that are connected to the film that can speak to it. So if that's something Cambrian would be interested in, or any organization in Sudbury, you know, we certainly would donate the film, or donate the screening fee to Indigenous education in your region. So if Cinefest doesn't accept it, or if we didn't submit to it, you know, there are other ways to show the film. And in the meantime, I hope you all jotted down information about NCCIE, because that's another great learning place.
Great, thanks, Andrea. I was able to share it in the chat so people can see it. That's working pretty well. Maybe it was just a couple of minutes to go, Andre. Might I ask you just to talk a little bit about what you think are the most valuable parts of this learning experience? I know it's, it's all important, but just in your heart of hearts, what do you think are the most valuable things to look at and messages to come away with?
Like within the course?
Yeah, within the course.
Sure. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay. Here's a very, very quick, I think this is how it should be looking like in your own portals.
Yes, yeah, it is.
Good. Okay, here we go. So I just want to give you a quick brief overview of the module. And I would say that I've asked this question of past president Mark Dockstader, Dr. Mark Dockstader. He was the first Indigenous PhD law student in the country and is another amazing leader and was an advisor to this whole process. And I remember asking him, what is the one takeaway? Because I do get that question, and I wanted to hear his insight. And he gave me one of the most incredible, profound answers that I was just like, wow, I wouldn't have thought of that. And I was so glad I asked him. But he said, if there was only one thing to take away in someone's learning journey, and there couldn't be 10 and there couldn't be 20, he said it's that ceremony. Everything begins with ceremony. And anyway, I invite you to go on a journey and ask Indigenous peoples around you, what that might mean for them and what that might mean, because it's a statement that could be learned over a number of years. So I want to say that as well. And I think for me, it's learning. It's answering the calls of the TRC. We're all asked. And it's a very reasonable request to learn about the historic relationship that began from the beginnings to today, that we are all treaty people. I think those are critical to listen and meet a survivor from the residential schools and hopefully go visit the grounds or somewhere and to learn from engaging in relationships, direct relationships with Indigenous people and any land-based learning. I know we're talking a lot about online learning. Is critical as well. So in closing, here's a quick visual of what your course will look like, and some of the themes, and each of them have a PowerPoint, a slide presentation, a quiz. We go through history, we go through racism, we go through colonialism around the world. And I think, I'll leave this up. I think this is very timely with everything going on around the globe right now. And so yes, I just want to see, for example, this would be the video that I mentioned, and so you would be able to watch this video created with Morris Switzer. And here's the one from Margaret Reynolds that I mentioned. So I can see that we're getting close to the end of our session. If we can be of help in any way, please visit us on our website, but start with your library first in terms of those technical questions. I'll make sure that the certificate is made available as well, and we're available through Reconciliation Education, and again, don't forget that this is an important first step, but it is a foundational small step along your journey, but we hope that this inspires you to continue learning and to continue learning from the folks around you as well. You're really blessed in Sudbury. So yeah. Any other closing things that or closing questions or comments that I might be able to assist with?
Yari's asking, do the First Nations have student exchange, does First Nations University have student exchange opportunities?
Yes, they do.
Uh,
And you know, I'm happy to connect you with some folks. First Nations University is open to all students, and it has a representation from Inuit to BC to the East Coast. So it's a real hub in the center of our country.
Great, great. I'm not seeing many more questions. I just want to thank you very much. Lots of gratitude from our participants as well. And thank you to our Indigenous colleagues here at Cambrian College for participating with us today and supporting our learning journeys as we go along. So thank you very much, Andre. Thank you, Ron, for joining us and speaking to your experience.
Thank you. And this is, given what we're seeing in the world today, this is so pertinent, but it also allows us to advance. And I really appreciate the efforts that was put together to put this module together. I phenomenally, I believe 100% behind it. I think it's great. And I thank everybody who participated today. That just gives me confidence in moving forward that we've got a good team at Cambrian to make this the college of choice. And I'm moving forward to that. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Ron.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Andre, again. Everyone have a really great day. And for Cambrian folks, we will share the recording with those who couldn't be with us today.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm going to stop the recording if I can. Sorry for all the noise.